Welcome into the Unblocked podcast, part of the Unblocked Podcast Network. I'm Keith, here joined by Brian and Coach again, and we're back on this Monday, Thanksgiving week. So, whole lot to look forward to this week, a lot to recap, as well as just looking back on, a whole lot coming up this week. Again, I want to thank our buddy Aaron at Run and Try for sponsoring the show. Go see him; he'll take care of all your needs, especially in this cold weather. Temperatures changing. You might need a little more warm weather gear, something very thermal, but at the same time, lightweight, breathable. He's got everything you need there. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. We had a huge weekend in college football, some NFL excitement as well. Now, but we'll get off to it with Brian and Pac-12 and ACC. So take it, buddy.
Start with the ACC. Bank of America Stadium, 2 weeks. You will have Louisville FSU. That's one of the few conferences where we know who's going to play in the championship. FSU lost Jordan Travis to a terrible injury, but they defeated Coach's alma mater after a little bit of a slow start. I know Coach was happy when it got to be 13-0. I was kind of rooting for the upset too.
Brian, Keith, I personally, if I'd have been the head coach at the University of North Alabama, I would have pulled a Corso and called timeout and taken my team down and gotten a picture made in front of the scoreboard when we were ahead 7-0. I mean, take a delay of game penalty, whatever, but you're going to be talked about worldwide if you pull that one off. And the publicity would have been so good for the university to pull. So I sent Brent a text and told him here's what this old guy would have done. I understand why you didn't. You had your players convinced they were going to win the game. I mean, that's like waving the white flag when you do that. But still, it was it crossed my mind, certainly.
It was a fast start. They were up 13-0 before Jordan Travis got hurt, I believe. So. But they could have used you as a quarterback in the second half, running against those Florida State defensive linemen.
I would have pitched it in a hurry. Let's just put it that way.
Louisville survives the Miami Hurricanes, 1-7. Clemson's still rolling. Tyler from Spartanburg should get season tickets. He's fired them up, and they beat UNC this week. Virginia beat Duke. Moving on to the Pac-12. Washington will play Oregon if Oregon wins over Oregon State, or if Oregon loses to Oregon State and Arizona beats Arizona State, Arizona will go. They basically had that monsoon against Oregon State, and they survived 1-2, I believe. Oregon, they blast Arizona State. Arizona pounded Utah. Arizona now is the only team in the country with 4 top 25 wins. So a dangerous team, whoever's going to play them in the bowl, whether they get to the championship or not. UCLA downs USC. Hopefully that saves Chip Kelly. I thought Dan Mullen had a pretty good tweet. He said, the wrong coach is on the hot seat in L.A., Coach. What do you think of that? Lincoln Riley definitely underachieved this year with supposedly the number 1 pick. To me, I'm not sure. So, and then Cal down Stanford. That's all I've got. So we've got one championship decided who's going to play and one still left in the last week of the season. So that's always interesting to me, is who's going to get to that championship game. So
very
back
good.
To you guys. So.
Yeah, I'll get into the bigs next. We'll go in the Big Ten, where not much was too exciting there. You got Ohio State and went right over Minnesota. Michigan, actually, that Michigan-Maryland game was a little together and a little tense for Old Blue for a little while. Maryland was there to play. They did everything they could, but in the end, you just have way more talent at Michigan, and they pulled that out. So it sets everything up for next week with Michigan and Ohio State. I believe that's the 11 o'clock kickoff or the 12 o'clock kickoff. So
11 Central Time, the game.
Perfect. Yeah, and but and the big thing for me is, well, Wisconsin won a game, but if you told me, now being from Chicago, I keep up with all the local sports. If you'd have told me that Northwestern would somehow win 6 games this year, and be bowl eligible before the last week of the season. Just 6 games in general. I'd have told you I'll put money on under that all day long, considering last year they only won 1 game, and that was in Ireland. They didn't win anything on U.S. soil. They have all that coaching turmoil, and the whole athletic department really is under a lot of fire.
During the summer too.
Yeah, so it's just been a disaster after disaster. But those players, I give them all the credit in the world. They fought. They knew what they could do. Sounds like that coach there is going to get that interim label removed.
Took that off, I believe. So
yeah, so good for him on that. So, Iowa continues to impress by hitting the under every time with their victory over Illinois.
9 wins though for Brian and Kurt Ferentz. That's pretty impressive when you only average 19 points a game, Coach.
It was something.
Deep.
At what point in time does somebody actually say something about how good they play defense? I mean, we get on that under deal, but how many points are they giving up a game? I mean, it ain't many.
They got a strong defense, and they got probably one of the best punters. He'll probably be drafted. Punting, special teams, they're solid. Just offensively, they struggle to score. So,
yeah. Then we go over to the Big 12, where things get quite spicy going into next week. Again, my big thing looking at these last couple of weeks is some of these teams just, who's going to stay focused, who's going to stay disciplined, and who's not going to overlook their opponents going into the final week, especially with a lot of different scenarios for conference championship games on the line here. And, Big 12 pretty much went as I expected. You got, it's an upset that Kansas State, Kansas State was ranked above Kansas. So, it all sets things up for next week. And if you look at the Big 12 standings right now, you got Texas at 7-1. And then you got Oklahoma State, which got down early but fought back quite well against their opponent. Who do they have? They had they played Houston and went down 14-3 after the first quarter. So you got Oklahoma State in the lead there. Then right behind them is Oklahoma, and then Kansas State. So you got 3 teams there at 6-2 behind Texas at 7-1. And going into the final weekend here, you're going to have, again, it's everyone who stays focused. Oklahoma's at home against TCU. Texas is at home against Texas Tech. Where we got Kansas State at home against Iowa State. And Oklahoma State home against BYU. And BYU hasn't been much of a slouch recently either. So they've been able to stay competitive and put forth some pretty good efforts. They gave Oklahoma a little bit of a test last week, with the results of that game being 31-24. So, again, it's Big 12 especially, if you got to stay focused, because there are 4 teams fighting for those 2 spots right now, which looks like, Texas will definitely get one of them. But you never know. It just depends on how everything works out. So we'll see from there. Coach, what you got in the SEC in South Alabama?
Well, I wanted to go back to Pac-12. Do we need to have a moment of silence for Prime for finishing last in the league? After all the talk we had on him for first 3 weeks, three shows we ever had.
3-week story. You put your sunglasses away and didn't need them the rest of the year.
Yep.
He didn't have an offensive line. The quarterback just got beat up the last 7 weeks.
So even if they win this week, they finish last. So they've won the same number of games. He won
two last year. No, he won 2 last year, so he increased it to 4. Double the win total with a lot of hype.
All right. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I did the same thing at Robertsdale in '94, I believe. Anyhow, South Alabama, Texas State this week. South Alabama's bowl eligible now, trying to improve their status in the bowl setting, get a better bowl. They've never won out there. They've lost every time they've traveled out there to play. And So that is a big deal for them to go out there and try to get it done. And the game is going to be broadcast on the NFL Network Saturday night. So a good game for folks to tune in and watch. They get a chance. The SEC, just some things that happened in SEC games. Texas A&M covering a kick with all walk-ons. Cool event. 12th honoring Jackie Sherrill 40 years later, the 12th man. They cover a kick with all walk-ons, and they knock the ball loose, correct? Get a fumble. Get it back. Well, he started using them. It started back whenever the guy coming out of the stands to help the Aggies play in the early 1900s. But he sort of got it going again by using walk-on players on special teams, and so they honored him with that. And they covered the kick, knocked the ball loose, got the fumble, and it was good to see Texas A&M kids having fun playing football after what they've been through. The last couple of weeks. Auburn and Florida, their games. Florida gives up a 4th and 17 in the last drive of the game. And again, these guys that play tweener defense, they sort of half cover, half rush. They sort of hope nothing bad happens, which they did right there. They sort of just played soft zone and tried to figure out what was going. Either bring more than they can pick up and get it out of his hands right now and line the rest of the guys up 15 yards deep and make him throw it underneath and go tackle them, or rush 2 and blitz 9 guys 17 yards deep and say, you know what, the ball ain't going to get to right here. Catch it, we're going to go tackle you, ball game's over. Auburn, on the other hand, runs a 0 cover blitz in which they expect the running back to pick up the blitzer. The running back skinnies past the blitzer and they throw hot. And they have nobody to cover him on 3rd and goal from the 17. If they stop them right there, the game goes from 10-7 to 13-7. It's still just a 6-point game, as bad as everything was, but the thing went totally steamrolled downhill when they scored right there and made it a 17-7 game. Again, same concept. Put guys along across the goal line as if it's the last play of the game right there. Make them throw the ball underneath, rally and tackle. If they want to go for it on 4th and 8, that's fine. Make them go for it on 4th and goal from the 8, and they may have. But dang, don't give up a touchdown on a ball that I could have thrown, because the guy was so wide open. I mean, that just, those things really bother me. I mean, those guys make way too much money to put kids in those type positions, not to give them an edge to make a play. This weekend, rivalry weekend, a lot of crossover games with the SEC and the ACC this weekend. In most cases, you would think, other than Georgia Tech, the ACC teams will win. Florida State, Florida, Clemson, South Carolina. The game that I think would be an interesting game to watch is going to be Kentucky and Louisville. Louisville is already in the championship game, 10-1. Kentucky is not a bad football team. 11 o'clock kickoff. Rivalry game. Kentucky will have as many people in the stands as Louisville does, if not more, even though it's a Louisville home game. Watching how that game plays out will be interesting to me. If I can stay up and watch any games all day Saturday, because I will have eaten so much for 2 days, I may nap and miss most of the afternoon games. So who knows how that's going to go. But that's all I got from South Alabama and the Southeastern Football Conference.
All right. And we'll wrap it up with a little NFL scoreboard talk. Brian, I know your connection with the Ravens.
The Ravens had a good win against Cincinnati. Joe Burrow went out with a wrist injury. Looks like he's going to be out for the year. Browns out-dueled the Steelers. Pickett throws for 107 yards. I don't know how many times they're going to have to chant at Pittsburgh Penguins games to fire the offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, but Mike Tomlin's sticking with him, tried and true. Houston beat Arizona. C.J. Stroud with another 300-yard game, Coach. He's having a heck of a year, but he did have 3 picks. How you win in the NFL with 3 picks is pretty unusual, but somehow they pulled it off. Jacksonville drummed the Titans.
It's like golf. Keath will tell you it's like golf. If you're going to make bogeys, you better make some birdies too. And Stroud makes enough birdies to overcome his bogeys most of the time right now. So we'll see how that holds up down the road.
Dolphins-Raiders was a pretty good game. I watched that here locally. Raiders gave them all they could until the end of the game. Just didn't have enough offensive firepower to keep up with the Dolphins. Keath, Bears-Lions, what'd you think?
Well, it was a big test this weekend. You had Justin Fields returning. He's got last week it's 6 more games to audition, and then he's going to try to force his coaching staff, it looks like, to really think long and hard before giving up on him. He came out, looked great. He was very decisive with his throws. He got rid of the ball more quickly rather than try to extend plays and rolling out of the pocket and finding someone downfield. He was rolling out and just running the ball. They had several designed runs in there that he executed fantastically. And it was a fantastic. The Bears defense showed up too. I mean, we had 4 turnovers, 3 of them interceptions, to the Lions 1. But unfortunately, the defense was only good for, I would say, the first 3.5 quarters, because then you allow the Lions to score 17 points in the fourth quarter, including 2 touchdown drives with less than 2.5 minutes to go. And the defense, excuse me, was just in my favorite prevent style, just keep letting them go. I mean, but they were, unfortunately, they were all set up. It looked like they just were all 2 yards past the first down marker all the time. And Coach, you said it yourself. You got to the idea is try to force them to throw underneath, run the ball, and, get the clock to keep running. But here it was the point where they could get to the first down line before they even had to catch the ball, and there was still no pressure really on them. So it was disappointing. However, in true Bears fashion, we have broken an NFL record in that game, where we have become the first team in 80 years to have a turnover rate of +3 and have the ball and have possession for more than 40 minutes in that game and
lose.
Yeah, Coach, Keath? I don't know if you froze up for a second.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I'm on my cell phone I'm on my cell phone right now just because no Wi-Fi in the house. But anyway, I got a phone call. So anyway, but yeah, it was embarrassing.
Coach, your Jets, what'd you think of that? Did you watch any of that game?
I did. I mean, you didn't got to worry about Zach Wilson throwing 3 interceptions in a game, because you have to get 3 balls off to be able to throw. You can't throw interceptions on your back. No. I mean, and even at that, all the stuff that goes on around it, they had a ball that the pick that he throws is let's say it's 3rd and 9, whatever it was, and the receiver runs an 8-yard rack, hooks up at 8 yards. I mean, what do you do? I mean, get the first down yardage. I mean, come on, guys. You guys make a lot of money to know where them sticks are. I mean, that's just, high school, you'd be wearing guys out over that. I mean, know where, you call a pass, you call sticks. Everybody has it in. Run 2 yards past the sticks and sit down. So if the ball's thrown and it brings you back, you still have the first down. You can't go right there and sit down. But that was a difficult game to watch as far as being a Jets fan.
And Zach demoted to 3rd team today. That just
he got demoted,
and I'm not a Nathaniel Hackett fan, as you know from earlier this year. But
did y'all see the hit last night that Kareem Jackson put on Josh Dobbs?
He was suspended for 4 games, I believe.
4-game suspension.
That's his second one this year. He had a 2-game suspension earlier this year. So
And again, none of us were in the building, but when they decided to, hey guys, on our first 3rd and 1, we're going to shift the tight end to quarterback and move Josh to tailback and run the toss sweep to Josh. How come nobody said, nah,
That's
I
such a good
don't think
idea.
so, Scooter. We ain't doing that. So you pitch it to your quarterback and he gets KO'd, fumbles the ball. I mean, Lord have mercy, that was an ugly play.
Broncos are back on a 5-game winning streak, and playoffs look reasonable right now to them. I looked at their schedule. I mean, they could get in the playoffs after starting, I think, 0-4 or 0-1-4.
They could.
I think they started. So, Keith,
They
we got a
could,
big
no
matchup
doubt.
tonight, Monday Night Football. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. You got Eagles going to the Chiefs. According to all the experts, they've got the line most recently. It was down to 2.5 in Kansas City's favor. And if you think about it, the generally home team gets at least 3 usually. So this is a deadlock. It's going to be hopefully a very
Super
fun,
Bowl from
competitive game.
last year. Super Bowl from last year.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had good prime games for a while, so I've been looking forward to this Monday Night Football for quite a while. So
yeah, it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to watching that. So, but that's about it for me, guys. Unless I'm going to throw in a random thing. Australia goes on to win their 6th Cricket World Cup. They played, the World Cup was held in India, and they played India. So a huge home field advantage. Roughly I think there's about 160, 175,000 people in those stadiums.
Wow.
It is an absolute scene. The basic country of India was almost shut down for that match. And it was a lot of people might not understand cricket, think it's slow and boring, but that was a match where there was drama late, and in some of these matches where they call them an ODI, a one-day international match, there is a limited number of balls that get thrown. So it was watching. India put up a ton of runs to begin with, and Australia had to come back and beat them. So a lot of fun. I enjoyed that, and it was good early morning on the television yesterday. You had the F1 race and the Cricket World Cup. So, but that's it.
Hey, let me say this: this would be the only time ever in my life that would have meant anything to me. In that, when me and Susan went to London this summer, the Australian cricket team was staying in the same hotel as us and playing their matches, and we got to hang out with them and got pictures made with some of them, and Susan's telling them, they're trying to get her to say Alabama, and she's getting them to say Australia. Both of them, everybody thinks their accents are so cool. So congratulations to Australia. That is fantastic.
Yeah, they won the Ashes and they won the World Cup, and It's been a big year for Australian cricket. So
they were there for the Ashes. That is correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Ironically, that trophy that they compete for, it's about that big. So it's a pretty cool idea. But anyway, we'll kind of wrap this up and let everyone get to Monday Night Football. I'm Keith, and here for Brian and Coach. Thanks for tuning into the Unblocked podcast. Please remember, hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, all that, and interact with us. Send us your questions, or if you have an event or a company you would like to get sponsored on the show, shoot us an email at unblockedpod@gmail.com. So thanks for tuning in. Let's go watch some good football, hopefully, tonight, guys.